I'm Jennifer Waugh with episode 5 of our News for Jax crime series, Florida Justice Betraying the Badge. Federal investigators are stunned to have now learned their initial investigation into one police officer tipping off drug dealers has now exploded into other crimes involving 3 Jacksonville cops, ranging from home invasion to carjacking, and as their star witness is about to reveal, to murder. Ken McLaughlin is sitting behind these doors in a secret office about a mile away from the jail cell where federal investigators had found him. He has just shocked this team of investigators by telling them about a pair of crimes they had remembered hearing about on the news in June of 1998. At that time, Sheriff Glover and his department seemed convinced the 2 masked men dressed as police officers who forced their way into Arnetha Culp's home in broad daylight to steal from her were pretending to be cops, certain they must have stolen the police car they left in after committing the home invasion, and then used it to also pull over Bernard Stewart later that same day, handcuff him, pepper spray him, and carjack him in the parking lot of an apartment complex in the middle of the afternoon before driving him to a remote area of Arlington to steal his money. Even though the 2 men did not wear masks when they stopped Stewart, and even though an inventory of all the sheriff's office patrol cars revealed none had been stolen, no one within the sheriff's office suspected real police officers had committed the crimes, and they were never solved. Now, 2 years later, federal investigators know the truth. Veteran cops Carl Walden and Jason Pugh were responsible. Ken McLaughlin knows because he was with them when they did it. And as if it couldn't get any worse, McLaughlin has just told these federal investigators he had more to tell.
And we walk back in and he lays everything out.
He described exactly what happened. He and Carl Walden and James Swift, Carl Walden's brother-in-law, had a plan to rob a convenience store owner walking out of the bank with $50,000 in cash. Walden heard, whether it was through the grapevine or from someone specific, he heard that there had been a robbery at a bank where Sinclair worked off duty. And eventually, Carl Walden told Eric Sinclair that he'd like to get a lick like that.
That type of lick, that type of crime. He wanted to try it.
And what did you think of that?
That was a little crazy, but you made it sound so convincing, so easy. And at the time, I needed money, he needed money. Sam Safar was a business owner, and then doing his business, he has a location that cashes checks. So every Friday, he goes to the bank and get a withdrawal of $50,000 for his business, for his stores. Every Friday.
Sammy Safar had no idea Eric Sinclair, the officer hired to protect bank customers like him, had orchestrated his nephew's robbery weeks earlier in the bank parking lot when 20-year-old Hassan Tahan had made a large withdrawal from his uncle's business. Sinclair had split the $50,000 take with Daryl Crowden and Jeffrey Reed.
Eric Sinclair told Walden that he didn't want anything to do with another robbery at the bank, because he said, if there's a second robbery and it looks like the first robbery, then Sinclair said, I'm going to be a suspect. Yet at the same time, he told Carl Walden the day, Friday, that someone from a convenience store would pick up a large sum of cash, $50,000, and he told him that the person who was picking up the cash would be driving a green 4Runner. So he gave him all of the information he needed to commit a second robbery outside the bank.
Walden convinced McLaughlin stealing Safar's money would be easy.
He told me everything would be simple. My part, And his brother-in-law part would be very simple. Say, leave it to him.
But Walden needed one more person to pull off the theft. It's June 26, 1998.
We posted up at 44th and Main. We parked there, and he said somebody gonna meet us over there. I looked up and seen somebody coming toward us that I knew, as well as he knew. And it was Reggie Bones, another police officer. That's a member of the church. He goes to describe to Reggie and me what the plan was.
Were you surprised that this is yet now another police officer?
Yes, I was.
Who's essentially plotting to commit a crime?
Right.
And what does he tell you?
He tells us that he got word that the guy comes around 12 o'clock, comes to the bank, and rides back to Teleran. So he wanted Reggie to watch and see when he comes in the bank or when he's at the bank, call back and say, I see him. So Reggie pulled off and went back. I'm assuming he went back to a spot and the look.
So Bones just set up right somewhere over in this area across from the armory, because you see the armory across the street. So he set up here where he can see a car coming down from 44th Street toward the bank, and he can see if the car pulls into the bank, but he didn't stay long. And he said he didn't see the car, and he called Walden and said, hey, I don't see him, I'm getting out of here. Bones was a very reluctant participant. My guess is that he didn't hang around long enough to even see if Mr. Safar was going to drive the green 4Runner and go into the bank. I think, to his credit, got cold feet and got out of there.
They missed Safar's trip that day to the bank.
Was Carl upset, frustrated?
Yes. He don't understand how he could have missed it. So he said, we'll get closer next time. I have y'all get closer where y'all can see.
1 week later, July 3rd, 1998, Carl Walden has now recruited his brother-in-law, James Swift, to help him and McLaughlin stalk Sammy Safar outside the bank to steal his cash withdrawal.
So the plan was for Swift and McLaughlin to set up in this parking lot. And one of them was keeping an eye on the bank. At some point, Mr. Safar is driving his green 4Runner. He drives from the convenience store, presumably, and drives down 44th Street, and he turns in to the bank parking lot. He's in the bank for a little while, and then he comes out, and Sinclair's with him. And Sinclair walks him all the way to his vehicle, like he's supposed to do. And then Mr. Safar exits the bank, and he turns right on 44th, and the expectation is he's going to drive all the way down 44th to Talleyrand. Sammy Safar took a quick right here on 41st. And that was probably, we think, to try to avoid anybody who might be watching this pattern and to really kind of lose whoever might be watching him or on his tail.
Because he was on alert.
Yeah, he was on alert.
After the
Hassan Tahan robbery, every employee was on alert that there could be a problem. So once Mr. Safar turns right here, then things are in a flux. Walden basically told McLaughlin, I'll find him.
He's gonna stop the car, and when he take the person out the car and sit him in his police car, we're gonna pop up and go to the truck and get the package.
Yeah, it's gonna make something up about immigration or, an immigration problem or something. And the thought was that Mr. Safar would leave the money in the green 4Runner, and Swift and McLaughlin would just drive up to the car, grab the $50,000 that they expected to be there, and drive off.
But something happened that Walden did not expect.
Safar didn't want to leave the money in the vehicle. He told Mr. Walden, I need to get my money. So he had the money in his hands in the back of the police car.
And of course, he's not leaving without the money because of what had happened to Hassan Tahan. And so now you have Mr. Safar in the back seat of Walden's patrol car with the $50,000. And now it's gone completely to hell.
Walden calls McLaughlin panicked.
He communicated with me on the phone. He said, man, I gotta do something. I'm gonna take him somewhere else. Then he'll say, I might have to take him out because he's seen my face. So I went off on him. That wasn't part of the plan. That's not supposed to happen.
Did James Swift hear this too, his brother-in-law?
Yes, James we both agreed that wasn't supposed to happen. But he's the only one that got a gun at the time, so there was nothing we can do. He was in control.
And what happened then as he's telling you this? Where are you driving? Where are you going?
We're going to the elementary school. So we get there, he pull up, and he got a piece of rope in his hand. Fold up in his hand. Safar's in the back seat, looking very, very, very sad. Like he knew something was gonna happen. And all of a sudden the door opened, and he hollered.
Safar's hands are handcuffed behind his back. He's begging for his life.
Please take me back to the bank. I'll get you $50,000 more. That's what he said. Car pushed him down, and pushed him down and squeezed him down between the seat and the cage, and put a rope around his neck and choked him.
Using rope given to SWAT officers for training.
Carl asked me to get in the back seat. He told me to finish taking him out. And I grabbed a rope. Mr. Safar was not moving, he wasn't breathing. I told Carl he's already dead.
Little did McLaughlin know Safar was actually still alive, but most likely died minutes later because he was wedged so tightly between the back seat and the cage of Walden's patrol car that he couldn't breathe.
Was Carl Walden upset about what he had just done?
No.
He was worried about getting caught.
That's all they worried about. I was torn down. I can't believe it got this far. Because I wanted to let him go. And then things got chaotic then.
Walden wanted the body out of his patrol car.
Kenny McLaughlin stayed in that back seat on a long drive through town, and when they'd pull up to a traffic light, Walden would tell Kenny McLaughlin to, cover him up. When they get to a stoplight, they didn't want somebody in a truck to look down there and see a body in the back of the police car.
Officer Walden weaves through the city, settling on this remote area, an old business. His brother-in-law is following in his blue Maxima. Swift and McLaughlin help Walden transfer Safar's body out of his patrol car and into the Maxima, telling McLaughlin to get rid of it. He orders Swift then to take care of Safar's SUV, which was still parked near the bank where Walden had pulled him over. Walden has realized, though, he has another problem. Safar handed him his driver's license during the traffic stop, and now it was missing. He was doubling back to the elementary school to see if it had fallen out of his pocket when he had killed Safar.
So I drove the car and went down by the railroad track and pulled the body over to there. I wanted them to find the body because I know I did something wrong, but I didn't want him or the family to suffer any longer.
The next day, a man collecting tin cans discovered Sammy Safar's body. McLaughlin said his shirt and shoes came off as he dragged him out of the car and left him here face down. Sammy Safar was 33 years old when he was killed. He emigrated to the United States in 1986. One of 9 brothers, he grew up in a small village in central Syria, working on his parents' vegetable farm. His pursuit of the American dream brought him to Jacksonville, where his brother says he worked day and night 7 days a week, eventually buying several convenience stores. His brother Sari told the Florida Times-Union his customers were like his brother's family. Sammy knew all of them by name, everyone who walked in the store. Sammy came here for a better life, he said, not for death.
It's one of those stories where I'm not going to say it was a fairy tale, but what a tragedy that he and the family had done so well. It ended the way it did.
Did you watch the news to see if, the body had been found, if you were going to get caught?
Yes, I saw it on the Saturday morning news. They found the body where they found it. Guys walking down the grass strip looking for cans. He found the body.
Do you remember what you felt when you heard that?
Oh, I got scared. But call me. Said, don't worry about it. Chill out. Said, why you couldn't find the body and put it somewhere else? I know what I was doing. I was in a position where it could be caught, be found.
Were you expecting that there'd be a knock on your door?
No. No.
So weeks went by, obviously even longer after the body had been found, and no one came and talked to you about it?
No.
No one was arrested?
No.
Carl kept working as a police officer?
Yep. Yes.
You remember wondering how is it possible that you got away with it?
Well, I would say for me it's because he was a police officer. And he knows the tricks of the game.
During our next episode,
Carl Walden, police officer who's assigned to the duty desk at this time, I'm reassigning him to his home.
the tricks are up and the walls are caving in on officers Walden, Jason Pugh, and Eric Sinclair.
We've prosecuted other law enforcement officers and other JSO officers, but it was the boldness, the greed, the abuse of power. It beat everything I had seen.
The arrests,
He intends to plead not guilty and to fight these charges vigorously.
the trial,
We're a little perplexed that they would trust the testimony of two cooperating witnesses and little else.
and the lingering questions about another murder and a missing polygraph test from police headquarters. Florida Justice Betraying the Badge continues.